There seems to be a close connection between feelings of hostility, resentment, and anger with intoxication, and perhaps an even deeper one with alcoholism. For example, when a large number of alcoholic men were asked why they got drunk, they answered that it was so they could tell somebody off. This indicates that while under the influence, they felt the power and freedom to express anger that they couldn't comfortably display when sober. Some experts suggest that there may be an undetermined biochemical relationship between alcohol and the kind of body changes that accompany anger. One experimental study of alcoholics also suggested that resentments may create in the blood of alcoholics a certain uncomfortable condition that is cleared up by a binge. A top psychologist has recently suggested that drinkers may enjoy the feelings of power over others that the influence of alcohol can bring. It seems that a large proportion of assaults and homicides in some countries happen when either the victim or the perpetrator, or both, is under the influence of alcohol. Rapes, domestic squabbles leading to divorce, child abuse, and armed robbery are also frequently attributed to excessive drinking. Even those of us who have had no experience with such behavior can easily understand the kind of fierce rage, which might lead some people to think of such violence when they are drunk enough. So we recognize the potential danger in anger. There seems little doubt that it is a natural state to occur in the human animal from time to time. Anger toward abstractions such as poverty, hunger, illness, and injustice have no doubt produced changes for the better in various cultures. However, there is also no denying that mayhem and even verbal assaults committed in excesses of anger are deplorable and do damage to society as a whole as well as to individuals. Therefore, many religions and philosophies urge us to get rid of anger to find a happier life. Yet a great number of people are certain that bottling up anger is very bad for emotional health, or it will poison our insides by turning inward toward ourselves, thus leading to deep depression. Anger in all its aspects is a universal human problem, but it poses a special threat to alcoholics. Our own anger can kill us. Recovered alcoholics almost unanimously agree that hostility, grudges, or resentments often make us want to drink. So we need to be vigilant against such feelings. Here is a look at some of the shapes and colors anger seems at times to arrive in. Intolerance, snobbishness, tension, distrust, contempt, rigidity, sarcasm, anxiety, envy, cynicism, self-pity, suspicion, hatred, discontent, malice, jealousy. Various AA members have, when sober, been able to trace all those feelings to some underlying anger. During our drinking days, many of us spent little time thinking such things out. We were more likely to brood about them or to overreact, especially after we heightened such feelings by taking another drink. Perhaps fear should be on that list too, because many of us believe anger is frequently an outgrowth of fear. We're not always sure what we're afraid of. Sometimes it is just a vague, generalized, nameless fear, and it can give rise to an equally generalized anger, which may suddenly focus on something or someone. Feelings of frustration might give birth to anger. As a class, problem drinkers are not famous for a high tolerance level when faced with frustration, real or imaginary. A drink used to be our favorite solvent for such an indigestible emotion. Perhaps justifiable resentment is the trickiest of all to handle. Even if we actually have been treated shabbily or unjustly, resentment is a luxury that, as alcoholics, we cannot afford. For us, all anger is self-destructive because it can lead us back to drinking. We must be honest with ourselves and admit that we are not experts in the field of depth psychology. Therefore, instead of trying to find the root causes of our unpleasant feelings of anger, we should focus on managing those feelings regardless of whether we believe they are justified or not. We zero in on how to keep such feelings from fooling us into taking a drink. When we begin to simmer inside, it sometimes helps a great deal to take a few bites of something good to eat, or a glass of a non-alcoholic beverage. It's also remarkably effective when we begin to get teed off at something, to pick up the phone and talk about it to our sponsor or to other recovered alcoholics. And it pays to pause and consider whether or not we may be overtired. If so, we've found that some rest often dissipates rage. Sometimes the things we are angry about are out of our control, like traffic jams, long supermarket lines, or the weather. In such cases, it's sensible to accept them instead of getting angry or turning to alcohol. However, sometimes we are resentful of things in our life that can and should be changed. For instance, we might have to quit a job and find a better one, or move to a different neighborhood. In such cases, we need to make the decision carefully, not in haste or anger. It's important to cool down first and then think calmly about whether our resentment is directed toward something that we can change. At times, we might not deal with long-standing resentment, but rather a sudden, intense rage. The 24-hour plan on page 5 and First Things First on page 31 of Living Sober have helped many of us cope with such sudden anger, even though we didn't think they would work until we tried them and got surprisingly good results. Another effective remedy for anger is the as-if idea. We can decide how a mature, well-balanced person would handle a resentment like ours, and then act as if we were that person. Trying this approach a few times can work wonders. For many of us, professional guidance from a good counselor, psychiatrist, physician, or clergyman can also help. We can also find an outlet in harmless physical action, like exercise, deep breathing, taking a hot soak, or in private pounding a chair or cushion and yelling. Simply repressing, glossing over, or damming up anger rarely seems advisable. Instead, we should learn not to act on our anger, but to do something about it. If we don't, we increase our chances of drinking. As laymen who know only our own experience, we recovered alcoholics have no laboratory knowledge or scientific theories about these matters. But few people who have ever had a hangover could forget how unreasonably irritable it makes you feel. Sometimes we took it out on family members, fellow workers, friends, or strangers who certainly had not earned our displeasure. That tendency can hang around for a while after we start staying sober, like the wraiths of stale smoke in a closed-up barroom reminding us of drinking days. We must do a good mental house cleaning to get rid of it.